We're into 2020 now. I recently done a post on trends on LinkedIn on what I was predicting to happen on the high street for 2020. We thought we'd just follow that up with a little video here. So first one, Mike Ashley to start buying F&B or partnering with other food businesses to introduce them into his outlets, particularly the House of Fraser. I still also think that he will probably come back into the Debenhams scenario at some point, which he obviously got his fingers burnt first time round on. Now, why do I think that? If you look at House of Fraser, one of the things that it is really missing, food courts, street food coming into these kind of warehouses and things like that. I think he can take that into House of Fraser. Food draws people in, and I think the type of person that he is, who's quite aggressive and thinking of new ideas and new ways of bringing people into his stores, I think if he's not already looking at it, I think he will be. One of my predictions is for Five Guys, which might surprise a lot of people because Five Guys are expanding pretty rapidly. Big company, successful company. But I think in the UK, I think it's a different market, and I think they're making some really bad decisions in terms of their site selections. It doesn't take a genius to work it out. You only have to walk around some of their units to see they've taken on very big units in very poor locations that just don't have a footfall. So I predict that they will be closing some of those stores down over 2020. Subway, pretty well documented now that Subway have had some difficulties over the last few years, right across the board, America and in the UK. They've been quietly closing stores down, consolidating their position, rebranding, trying to sort of modernise. But I think they're seen as an old brand, and there's a lot of competition out there now. And regardless of the attempts to rebrand, try and introduce a few new menu items, I think they're going to struggle. Franchisees are going to continue to be unhappy and going to look for alternatives. But yeah, I think they're going to have a very hard year. Restaurant group, right? What can I say about a restaurant group? Lots of brands. They obviously not so long ago bought Wagamama's, and I think, in my opinion, Wagamama's was bought to shore up their business, because I think it's been struggling for a few years. A lot of their brands have been struggling. If it wasn't for their concessions within their airports and places like that, I think, which is their most profitable area, I think they would have run into quite a few problems. I think what you're going to see is them continue to consolidate their position, but they're going to consolidate around Wagamama's now. So you've got a number of their brands that are struggling. I think they're going to carry on closing some of those brands, particularly Frankie and Benny's. Personally, I think that's a mistake. I think they've got lots of options with their brands that they could do that they're not exploring. I'd like to come back to that at some point because that's a whole video in itself. I've already covered Five Guys, Subway, Restaurant Group. We've got Pizza Express and Jamie Oliver's. So Pizza Express, again, obviously well publicised issues with debt. Those are going to get resolved into 2020. So yeah, I don't know an awful lot about Pizza Express, but I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see, unfortunately, the people down on the floor are going to be the people who suffer through bad decisions that owners and managers or senior management make. So Jamie Oliver obviously had a tough couple of years with his restaurants. I think you're going to see Jamie come back to the market, and I hope he's learned some lessons from that, and I think he's going to be a lot more involved in it. I think they're going to be smaller restaurants because I think he would have learned some lessons from not doing such big restaurants, and I'm hoping that he's learned some lessons by not picking. One of his biggest problems that he made with his other concept was that he tried to roll it out too quickly, too fast. Bad advice. I'm hoping that he's got the right people behind him this time. Okay, another big prediction I think for 2020 rolling into 2021 will be a major competitor to Deliveroo's dark kitchens coming into the UK. I think that will be one of the ex-bosses of Uber. They are already well progressed into setting some of these up, and when I talk about competing with Deliveroo with the dark kitchens, I think they will be following that model where they will be, I think they're going to be a bit more hands-on. I think they're actually going to potentially own those brands or have agreements to run those kitchens themselves, and then be obviously using the delivery model to deliver to the customers. I think they're going to do it in a really big way. I don't think it's going to be small, and I think it's going to really shake up Deliveroo and Just Eat. I think it's going to be the next step on the dark kitchen, virtual kitchen side of things. The last two governments have been talking about business rates for a while. That's long overdue now. I think they were actually commit to doing something about it, because I think the market is in such a poor state on the high street that they've got to do something about it. It's long overdue. It's an antiquated system. I think you're going to get a commitment from the government, and I think that's going to happen this year. And I also think, surprisingly, and this is one that I'm just throwing out there, I actually think they might also look at reducing VAT in hospitality or restaurants, food and beverage. Again, there's a lot of jobs in this sector. It's struggling. You've seen another increase is about to happen on the minimum wage. These are not small increases, these are big increases. And whereas the sector and in general hospitality supports higher wages for its employees, and again, both of those combined I think will help the high street hugely over the course of 2020. Of course there's going to be significant challenges, but I think if these things can get put in place within the first half, I think we'll come to the end of 2020 where foot flow will increase on the high street. I think there's more sensible negotiations going on rent with landlords. I think local authorities are getting their head around the fact that they've got to support the high street more than they've been doing, and I think the combination of all of those towards the end of 2020 will see a revitalisation of what's happening on high street. So that brings me to my last subject, which is Itsu. If you are familiar with them, obviously mainly London based. Mr. Metcalf, who used to own or one of the owners of Pret and launched or founded Pret and then moved to and set up Itsu. Someone I've got a huge amount of respect for, is really been a driving force of food and beverage for probably the last 20 odd years. Itsu's been amazing in London. It started to expand outside of London, Brighton, Oxford, places like that. They've announced that they are going to have go for significant growth in terms of number of stores, which is only going to come about through increase in the number of stores outside of London. I think they've stuck their toe in that pond and decided that that's not for them to do themselves and raise the capital themselves. They're going to go down the franchise model. I think they're going to struggle. That's my honest opinion, and the reason why is because they're going to be very expensive for a franchisee to buy into, and the concept works very well in London and close to London and for high footfall areas, but I think they're going to struggle much the same as a lot of London brands that come out of London and try and expand into the regions, because they've got the London mentality, and some of those concepts just don't work outside of London. Thank you very much for listening, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and leave some comments in the comments. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, leave your comments in the comments below, and let me know what you think of my predictions, and whether you have any of your own predictions. And thank you again, and join us again for the next episode. I always find the hardest bit at the end. Right.